Council back in session. We'll revert back to HDC with a nomination of Richard Grinnell before the table from last time. Discussion?
Do we need a motion to approve?
I'd move to accept the nomination of Richard Grinnell for HDC.
Motion been made to approve Mr. Richard Grinnell's application.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Discussion?
What's the length of their terms?
3 years. Made and seconded. Any further discussion? Ms. Balance?
I received some calls about Mr. Grinnell, and of course, Mr. Satori has told us that it's been Mr. Grinnell's policy to have meetings that aren't public meetings, and
Okay, ma'am. Is this substantiated?
That bothers
Is it
me.
pertinent?
apparently it is substantiated.
Okay.
It is.
At the table right now, is it?
Is it?
That's what I'm asking.
Is it? Are we talking about somebody's character?
Talking about his nomination. It's either a yes or no vote on it.
I'll address that, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
My wife was involved with that, and that never went to court. That was never proven. That whole
Okay.
thing was
Right.
There never went to court.
Point of order.
Okay, yeah.
And
Okay.
so I'm just addressing her
Okay.
rumors
No,
and the mayor's rumor, the
Okay,
former mayor's rumor. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm addressing the mayor. I'm looking at Mrs. Balance.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And it was never proven. So, no.
Okay. So, as it stands, it's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am?
Just one thing, I know it's been just a short while that Mr. Grinnell left the CAPC Commission for reasons, personal reasons. I'm not certain what they were, but
No
they
idea, ma'am.
conflicted with him serving on a commission.
On the CAPC?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is before the HDC, so roll call vote, please.
Ms. Alexander?
No.
Dr. Kirkpatrick?
Present.
Mr. Pownall?
No.
Ms. Balance?
No.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Nomination failed. Is there any more department head reports everybody's aware of? That's all I've got. All right, next is unfinished business. First on the agenda is discussion of Resolution 484 and Ordinance 1940, fee schedule for planning and BOZA. Mr. Pownall, Mr. DeVito were the sponsors.
Move to discuss.
Move to discussion.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. Go ahead.
Since this was mine and Mr. DeVito got tacked on much to his chagrin for some reason, I apologize for this seemingly going on and on and on, and I did go through this, have gone through this over the last few weeks. As far as I don't know if everyone has the resolution in front of them or not. I was hoping to have a typed resolution before the council tonight to consider. I would just like to basically, since this has been refuted that the Planning Commission could not address these issues, this was passed as a resolution back in May of 2001, which we're almost, by the time we get it taken care of, will be 10 years. In reviewing this, there are a couple of the forms that are printed with the application fee on the form, and I'd like to be able to have this in writing to present to the council at the next meeting. So I do have it under agenda items, but I'd like to discuss what I've looked at, and if there's some concern with the figures, tell me now. Under the conditional use permit is currently $75. That gets very loosely treated sometimes, and the application for rezoning a property and variance request I've increased to $100. Rescheduling of public hearings because there is extra time required of City Hall to remake new signs, etc. $50. Variance appeals, $50. There are some of these that are in the ordinances, but most of these are not covered because it refers to the.
Okay, excuse me. Variance appeals. I don't have that one on mine. Is that something that was written in?
Well, variance request is
Slash
a
appeals.
very general request. It's also variance appeal, sign variance, sign appeal. There's 2 or 3 that are covered.
And how
under
much
the
was that, sir?
variances. And also, I noticed in going through it, I was trying with the discussion of the resolution and having it posted, which is required by code downstairs. I was noticing and reviewing, I believe there was also Ordinance 1940, which talks about some revised fees for permits, inspections, and licenses that I have not had a chance to track down the building official for, that are going to take ordinance changes. And I noticed that in the tree cut permit, which is basically handled through the building official, and if it exceeds his authority, goes to the Board of Zoning Adjustments. Whenever there was an update to 7.5602B, they left out any cost in that permit. So I'd really like to be able to look at some proposed fees. If everybody's happy with the way they are, I just feel like that we need to, because there's references to Chapter 114 in the Municipal Code, which no longer exist. I do feel like there are people that's sitting at this table that have served on planning and Board of Zoning Adjustments know what we go through sometimes repeatedly in some cases to reconsider. And there's also under the permits and fees for building under 11.12, fees that have to be considered that with rising cost of gasoline and various trips back out by the building official, same way with the tree cut permit. I know one time a couple of years ago, Bobby Ray had to go out, previous building official had to go out 3 or 4 times in regards to tree cut permits, and $20 is pretty cheap, and it doesn't cover the cost that the city is paying. So I would appreciate any input in changing these figures and trying to reconstruct some of the ordinances that are tied to that, and hopefully have the cooperation of the city clerk who's responsible for these forms to, once, if this passes, that so we aren't wasting forms, if we can allow updating, scratching out the price and putting, since it's not in the ordinance, it's on the form, it doesn't make it binding other than what the resolution says. Now that I have everybody confused, does anybody have any questions?
Any discussion? Any further discussion on it? Mr. Berry?
Mr. Pownall stated that I guess I'm confused. The application for rezoning a property, $50, variance request, $50. Is that existing or is
They're
that
currently
exceed?
$75.
And you're suggesting reducing it from 75 to 50?
No, to 100.
You said 50.
I'm sorry. That was for the variance appeal, which is currently 20.
What's noted in the resolution, that's what was
Well, as I stated whenever I first put it on the agenda, there's a lot of these fees. These 4 particular ones are strictly ones that meet the Planning Board of Zoning Adjustments. And I just feel like that there's a need to put the fees charged all in one place. That way, if there's a need to readdress fees, whether they're building permits, CUPs, tree cuts, whatever, it can be done in one fell swoop of a resolution update versus having to go in and change 3 or 4 different ordinances. And we had discussed this several years ago in Planning Commission doing that, and it just, with not having quorums and people being asked to leave the commission and not reapplying, it was just one of those things that kind of died until recently.
Mr. Berry?
Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to ask Mr. Pownall to table this until he can get his list of fees and resolution put together? Is that what you're requesting?
I would like to get some input from y'all, but yes, I'd be more than glad to carry it over
so
to
we
the
can-
next agenda.
I'd like to have it so we can have something in writing. It's confusing what I have now.
Mr. Pownall make that.
$75. So I'd
Mr.
like
Pownall
to.
make that motion.
Well, part of the delay was because I do not have a city email address, therefore I have to come back and forth to City Hall and ask for assistance, which is a little disarming, but I'd be more than glad to make a motion to table this until the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table until the next meeting. Any further discussion? Ms. Balance?
How can we help you, Mr. Pownall?
Give me an idea if you feel like that those costs are reasonable or not. You know, I don't want to be sitting here with 4 years of planning experience, you know, and Mr. Berry has architectural experience and time on planning and time on council. Respecting those experienced years, that we really look at what it's costing the city to handle some of these, and you know, would it necessarily behoove us to? I don't want to say make it harder to. I know there's some discussion has happened in the past at planning commissions that fines are exorbitant in some cases, but at the same time, when the attitude is it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. Some of these permits come along, and you know, without doing a whole lot of homework, people can file a $25 request to reschedule a public hearing, and City Hall has to spend some time redoing signs and rescheduling meetings. And so, yeah, if somebody wants to help me work on this, send me recommended, and you can look through the building code under section 14, section it says section 14 in the ordinance. I don't know if that's correct or not. It's under the building code.
Any further discussion? Motion made and seconded to table to the next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Table. Next item on the agenda is discussion of domestic fowl ordinance of the Planning Commission. I believe Mr. David Grotner is here from the Planning Commission. Mr. Grotner, would you please come in, sir?
Well, I'm actually still here.
Oh, okay. So he is here for this.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
All right, let's move to that.
Okay, motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. Gentlemen, you have the floor. Can you tell us?
A little bit about the intent of the domestic fowl ordinance anyway. This was brought to planning about 18 months ago, I believe, sent down from the previous council. And at that point, we were looking at just creating the ability for people with land that have property within the city limits